The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is one of the most complex and hilarious comic science fiction novels of all time. This video will make you want to read the book. And if you already have read the book, then the odds are it'll probably make you want to read it again. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was written and created by Douglas Adams. I say created because the book was inspired by a podcast held on Night Vale BBC radio station in London, England, and it was hosted by Adams and his friend. Douglas Adams was not a writer, anything but in fact. He procrastinated so much that his publisher had to sit in his room and watch him type the whole thing. Ridiculous. The book was named after the reoccurring object and possible motif, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's a hollow book that helped hitchhiking the galaxy in less than $5 Altarian a day. In 1971, Douglas Adams got the idea in the most majestic way possible, lying drunk in a field near Innsbruck, Austria. Anyways, while he was hitchhiking around Europe, he wondered to himself as he was looking at the stars, A Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy would really be something, and he decided to make it a podcast and then eventually a book. It takes place in 3 different periods of time and in 2 dimensions, and all the while staying in the confines of the Milky Way galaxy. The setting of the book is sarcastic, cheerful, and a sort of that's just how it is kind of tune. There's 5 books in the entirety of the series, and the only way to spoil it is to tell you what happens in book 2 to 5, so don't even worry about anything like that. The book starts with Arthur Dent waking up to find that his house is going to be demolished to make way for a freeway. Arthur is often very clueless and really just stumbles around blindly drunk or in disbelief throughout the book. He is a human living in Islington, which is a borough in London, who finds himself in the midst of total planetary destruction to space for an interplanetary bypass by a race known as the Vogon. But he is quickly saved by his strange friend, Ford Prefect, Arthur's strange emphasis on strange friend, who happens to be from a planet in the proximity of Betelgeuse, 642.6 light years away. Alright, so to further understand this book, I'm going to need to give you a little bit of a space lesson. So we live on this little blue green planet, right? Orbiting our star, soul, or sun. Whatever you want to call it, it's in the southeastern spiral of our galaxy. Our closest star is Alpha Proxima, and it's about 2 light years away. You may be looking up wondering, but Nick, what's a light year? And I say, good question. It's about 6 trillion miles. Take Voyager 1, our space probe that has been traveling 36,000 miles an hour, 40,000 years to travel 1 light year. Why am I covering this, you ask? Well, it'll come up later, but it also helps understand the complexity and the vastness of our galaxy and then the story. To Ford. Ford has been stranded on this planet for the past 15 years. It is revealed Ford works for a publishing company that runs the Hitchhiker's Guide and is a researcher in the field. Ford manages to convince some of the staff on the ship to let them hitchhike on in the nick of time too, just as they are beamed up onto the Vogon ship just as the planet is completely destroyed. They didn't stay on for long though, because the Vogons found out they were on board. They are forced to listen to the worst poetry of all time and left to die in space. Then they are rescued by the Heart of Gold. Impossibly. It is a new cutting-edge spaceship that moves through the universe at speeds infinitely larger than the light. And it was recently stored by our next character, Zaphod Beeblebrock. Zaphod just happens to be the president of the galaxy and is being hunted by swarms of police and intergalactic military. But because the Heart of Gold actually runs on probability, it is impossible to catch him. If it sounds confusing, it's probably because it is. I mean, if you were to put your phone number into the machine, say my phone number is 303-506-9468, it would translate to 3,335,069,468 to 1, and it would do something. Anything that number of improbability. That number against. I know what you're thinking. How is this supposed to make sense? Well, I have a really good answer for you yet again. It doesn't. Remember how much time it takes to get from here to Betelgeuse? Well, it would take the Heart of Gold 4 seconds. I thought Beeblebrox is, he's a little bit of hard to describe. He's full of himself, he's dashing, he has 2 heads, 3 arms, so you could describe him in a lot of ways. And Douglas Adams is such a profoundly astounding person, how he just gets everyone to interpret his characters differently, and how much interpretable machine this book is. Since it's that kind of character, let me just let you interpret the character however you want. But I'm just gonna give you kind of like the basics. He's like dashing. He thinks he's smart. He just succeeds being like a media star, a pop star, just someone who you think was really smart, who's actually really stupid. Zaphod is joined by Trillian. You know, you can interpret her however you want. But she's a human girl who Zaphod picked up and took to space while she was at a party in Islington back 5 months previous. Trillian is this really nerdy girl, may or may not have a love affair with Zaphod and Arthur at the same time. Anyways, it's complicated. Quote, one of the major difficulties Trillian experienced in their relationship with Zaphod was learning to distinguish between him pretending to be stupid just to get off her guard, and him actually being stupid. They're also joined by Marvin, the paranoid android. He's depressed and pessimistic all the time, always saying things, oh, I told you it'll all end in tears, or I'd make a suggestion, but you wouldn't listen. And you know what? I absolutely love this character. He has the complexities that I can easily relate to, and his dialogue is smart and hilarious, and I smiled every line he was in the book. Now that we know all our characters, Ford, Zaphod, Trillian, Arthur, and Marvin are all aboard the Heart of Gold. Eventually, they decide to go to a place called Magrathea, just because they could. On the planet's surface, they meet an old man called Slarty Bartfast, one of the Magratheans who have just woken up from a 2 million-year nap. Slarty Bartfast is Douglas Adams' sarcastically self-aware mentor for Arthur, always saying things like, adventure calls, or great things are afoot. He is a minor character, but appears again in the series with a ship that runs on Italian bistro math. Slarty Bartfast takes a crew into the heart of the planet and reveals that Magrathea used to make planets, and they're starting the business yet again. Then Slarty Bartfast tells Arthur that his whole life was a lie. The planet we call Earth was secretly an organic computer created by another computer called Deep Thought. Deep Thought was given the task to solve the answer to life, the universe, and everything. It took 2 million years to do it. And then, once the time had came, Deep Thought promptly answered it. 42. I mean, it's not really a spoiler or everything. I bet you've already heard it. I mean, like, well, the things that built Deep Thought, super intelligent, interdimensional mice, there we go, were quite confused with this seemingly random answer, and promptly discovered that Deep Thought didn't even know the question. So they had Deep Thought build another computer to find that question, and was 5 minutes away from completion before it was destroyed by the Vogons. Just as Slarty Bartfast finishes telling the whole story, he leads Arthur and the gang to a room. Inside the room, there are 2 of those super intelligent interdimensional mice. The mice think that the answer to life, the universe, is everything, is somehow hidden in Arthur's subconsciousness. So they do the only logical and try to just take out his brain. Like, what do you mean? But Arthur and the gang manage to escape from the mice and back into the Heart of Gold. The books consist of Arthur and Ford traveling across the galaxy and getting into all sorts of trouble. It's kind of hard to read though. And when I read it, the whole thing sounded like a bizarre fever dream. The main conflict of this book was the destruction of Earth and the consequence because of the mice trying to steal his brain at the end. The story arc is kind of a weird plateau kind of thing. The reason I like this book so much is how comically sarcastic it was, and how much fun it was to read about all these absurd random things. Here's a quote that I'm going to show you that was directly from the book and by Douglas Adams himself. In the beginning, the universe was created. This has made a lot of people very angry and has been widely regarded as a bad move. This is one of Douglas Adams' best and the funniest things that I like to call throw-in excerpts in this book. These throw-in excerpts consist of a one-chapter page that probably has nothing to do with the book as a whole, but supplies information and genius hilarity. I can go on and on about how much I love this book, but the fact of the matter is that would take hours. Thanks everyone for listening. I hope you enjoyed this presentation.